Hello and welcome. My name is Trish Christensen. I'm the president and CEO of the Modesto Chamber of Commerce. Really happy to have you with us today. Homelessness is something that we constantly hear about. Many of us talk about on a regular basis. There's a lot of challenges that impact us as families here, employers, employees, working throughout town. We all witness and experience challenges around us with homelessness. One thing you hear often is what's going to be done about it? Who's going to deal with this? We have to address what's going on in our city. And I know that there's a few organizations very focused on making a difference with that. The city of Modesto has put together a program which I find really comprehensive, has a ton of hope and positivity to make a true difference for both sides of the equation with that. And one thing they really needed assistance with is getting that message to the community through businesses, employers, and opening doors for opportunity, because you can play a huge role in helping to solve this going forward. So with that, I'd like to welcome the people that are here with me today to speak and share their program with you. And we're going to start with our city manager, Joe Lopez.
Thank you, Trish, and thank you everyone for having us here today. We're proud to present to you our Camp2Home. I think you're not seeing me, so just go further back. There you go. I'm too tall. Yeah. All right. So thank you again for having us here today. So I'm just going to read some numbers. They're always quite staggering every time I read these numbers. 567,000 across the nation, 152,000 in California, 2,200 in the county, 1,500 here in this city. These are the number of people experiencing homelessness. These are our friends, our neighbors, perhaps our family members, and they may be suffering from mental illness or drug addiction, physical disability, or they could be victims of tragedy. Several years ago, the county CEO and I made a commitment to each other that we were going to work diligently and collaboratively to address the issues of homelessness in our community. We recognized the stress that this was causing our community, from those experiencing homelessness to our residents and to our businesses as well. So our point in time count happens at the beginning of the year, and this year we weren't able to do our point in time count, so we don't have an accurate reflection of what the current numbers are today. But traditionally, we are going up by about 5% annually a year, and with the pandemic, there's probably no doubt that that number is going to increase even higher when we do the next point in time count in 2022. Even prior to the pandemic, though, our world's changed when the Ninth Circuit ruling in the Flores versus Boise case came out. And we had to change the way we were addressing homelessness in our community, because now there are certain rights that we needed to address with those that were experiencing homelessness. And what the Ninth Circuit ruling basically said is you cannot prohibit individuals from camping in a location because they were afforded the basic right for human needs, and that includes sleep. And so they had to be afforded a place where they can lay their head at night. Once that ruling came out, it was almost immediate to where we started seeing tents pop up all around our community. If you saw Grisada that day, it became a campground very, very quickly. It looked like a campground at anywhere else you'd see in California. There were dozens and dozens of tents that had shown up that day. We met back at City Hall and we said, we got to find a solution to find a place where these individuals can rest at night and comply with the Ninth Circuit ruling. And from that, Beard Brook Park was born. As Beard Brook got bigger and bigger, more and more issues started to occur. There was a lot of illicit activity that was occurring. There were factions within that camp that were starting to proliferate. And it was becoming more and more dangerous in that situation. And we knew that we needed to take an additional step to ensure the health and safety of everybody who was staying down at Beard Brook Park. And from that, the Modesto Outdoor Emergency Shelter was born. We refer to it as MOES. But MOES also had its challenges, and MOES was always intended to be a temporary solution as we were starting to work on some of the other initiatives that we'll talk about later. I joke that this was one of the largest social study experiments that we've ever conducted in this city, But what happened was we learned a lot about this population during this period of time and what some of the needs and issues were when we were interacting with this population. I would be remiss if I didn't acknowledge that while Mo's was operating, there was a significant reduction in quality of life calls for service while Mo's was operating. And that includes from police and fire. We talk about man down calls. We saw significant reduction of the number of calls in those areas. So during this time, we're working on these various initiatives, but historically, strategies to address homelessness primarily focus on housing and sheltering individuals and not necessarily on the root causes of why an individual became homeless. And without the sufficient focus on the services and the sustainable employment for that individual to maintain their house or their housing, we knew that we couldn't take the same passive approach that had been done in the past if we were going to make any headway in addressing this population. We knew simply that warehousing people was not going to be a long-term solution to help individuals escape from homelessness. So we developed a three-prong approach to working with our homeless here in the city of Modesto. The first component of that is shelter and housing. There needs to be housing available. We all know that there is not enough housing. Now, we can have conversations about where there is not enough housing, but I can tell you, emergency shelters are one aspect of that, and they're very important and they play a vital role. But we need to start focusing higher up on the housing continuum and getting more transitional housing and permanent supportive housing. And a lot of the work that we're doing is going into that area in particular. As you guys all most know, that we developed the low barrier shelter, which is considered an emergency shelter that can house up to 182 individuals a night. We also developed the Kansas House. So between those two units after Mo's, we developed almost 300 beds for individuals in our community. To that end, we have 400 additional units that will be available by the end of 2022. So we continue to remain laser focused on housing as a requirement to trying to end homelessness in our community. Then we have community accountability. There has to be accountability for those that are living on the streets. We want to help individuals that want to be helped. However, if you are not going to accept the services that we're able to provide, you need to be accountable for your actions. If you are going to be breaking into businesses or people's homes, then there needs to be accountable for those actions. And basically, we want you to be good stewards in our community and do the right things. Then there's program services and initiatives. This is where we provide extensive case management. And this was through the creation of the Access Center at the current Salvation Army and the Low Barrier site, where individuals can come and obtain the necessary resources that they need in order to progress out of homelessness. So what I just discussed is a global approach, and we've coordinated very closely with the county, but we knew we needed to do more to expand our approach. Our solution to help reverse this trajectory is comprehensive, but I want to acknowledge that this is not a one size fits all. What one person may need may be different than another person to another person. And we need to find what is right for that one individual. And we can't just assume that one size fits all, and we haven't done that. So one of the things that we recognized early on is we can have all the shelter beds we want. We can have all the services we want, but if we don't have a program that is built for that individual to sustain their life after the services that they provided, that they'll just end back in the same cycle that they were to begin with. This is where Camp2Home came into play, and this is to help that individual get on a path to self-sufficiency. Our strategy meets people where they are, and from the moment we meet them, we help them get into a shelter, we offer job training, and we help them secure employment and housing. In other words, we offer them an opportunity to self-sufficiency. And with that, I am going to turn it over to Jessica Hill, who has done a tremendous job putting this together and provide additional details on our Camp2Home solution.
Thank you, Joe. I'm Jessica Hill. I'm the Community Development Manager at the City of Modesto. So what that means is I oversee all of the affordable housing and homelessness money that the city receives, both federally and from the state. So as Joe touched on, the solutions that we implemented previously prompted us to really think critically of our gaps and the needs of our homeless community. So for context, the city of Modesto traditionally receives about $150,000 per year to help address homelessness. As part of the CARES funding, the city of Modesto received a large allocation totaling $3.3 million of funding to help combat homelessness. With this large influx of money, we challenged ourselves locally to come up with a creative solution and collaborate with public and private partnerships to help address homelessness in our community. This led us to develop Camp2Home, a comprehensive response to homelessness that includes moving an unsheltered individual out of homelessness through the system of self-sufficiency and into permanent housing. So the first component of Camp2Home is outreach. For this component, the city has hired 4 homeless engagement assessment and response team members, or otherwise known as our HEART team. These members allow the city to expand our outreach into our community and to reach individuals experiencing homelessness, provide resources, and give them the opportunities to move into the local shelters. This team is collecting comprehensive data to track the services that are provided, shelter obtained, and additionally, why the homeless do not want to receive services and what the barriers are in order to move them into shelter. This outreach and data will allow the city moving forward to determine gaps and needs to make data-driven decisions regarding the homeless population. With increased outreach into the community and the continuous interaction with the homeless individuals, it will encourage homeless to engage in services and eventually move into shelter. The next component of Camp2Home is shelter. As the HEART team continues to engage with unsheltered individuals, the goal is to place them all into shelter. As Joe described earlier, with the closure of Beardbrook Park and Moe's, we determined a need in our community for a low barrier shelter. This shelter is known as the Access Center Emergency Shelter, or ACEs, which allows people to bring their pets, partners, and possessions. The cities help support the operations of the shelter, and the shelter keeps some shelter beds set aside for our outreach team to shelter those who engage in services and would like to move off the streets and into shelter. Our next component is robust job training. So as individuals continue to be sheltered, we wanted to offer additional case management services within the shelter. Therefore, we partnered with the Downtown Streets team to develop a robust training program for individuals who had employment as a goal. We've created a new 25-member team and creating more comprehensive job training program to ensure that these individuals who participated in it will have a more well-rounded and supported approach to employment. The city of Modesto has created training modules among several departments, including Parks and Recreation, Solid Waste, Forestry, and our police department. Downtown Streets team members will have quarterly assignments and trainings from each of these departments to assist with expanding their skill base and assist with getting them ready for employment. Downtown Streets team in partnership has also created a robust curriculum, which includes training on topics like money management, resume development, interview workshops, and many more. All clients in this program are also enrolled in workforce development. And as individuals continue to move through the training program, Downtown Streets team will work alongside them and individuals will graduate and be ready for full-time employment. So one of the most critical pieces of Camp2Home is moving those individuals who have graduated from the job training program to permanent employment. The vision requires government, nonprofits, businesses, and our faith-based community to commit to supporting our homeless community with offering full-time employment with a fair chance at restarting their lives to become self-sustainable. The city has reached out to Opportunity Stanislaus, Stanislaus Community Foundation, Workforce Development, and United Way as partners. So now I'd like to introduce David Guzman from the Downtown Streets team to speak more about the employment search for our Downtown Streets team graduates.
Thank you, Jessica. One of the things that we do with our people is we always, before we enroll them into the program, we always take them in, but we try to figure out what they were doing before they were homeless. Like, just like everybody else, every person has a story. The biggest thing is making sure that we tap into the background that they were in of employment that they were doing before. For the example, we actually had 2 gentlemen that were hired here in Modesto through Downtown Modesto Partnership. One of them had had a resume that would make anybody look great. And I told him, like, with your 1,700 hours of experience with Downtown Streets team, but also as a prior manager before you were homeless, we're going to get you employed right away. We got him employed within the month because of everything that he did through the partnerships that we have created with the city of Modesto and Stanislaus County. We are also doing a lot of great other things by recruiting a lot of people that are staying in the shelter. We like to talk to them and making sure that they have the proper information. But the biggest thing that we do assure with them is that the biggest thing through our program, they come out and get the experience that a lot of people lack. By being with us 4 hours a day, going out into the community of downtown Modesto and cleaning up, they're able to get hours of volunteer services. So once we are doing that resume, I can show our current partners and potential partners, I'm like, hey, this person has actually been doing customer service by talking to, the community members here in Modesto, but also by cleaning and taking the time of their own personal schedule to make their resume look better. During that time, we were able to, like, one of the biggest things that we have right now is COVID. And by that, like, hey, sanitizing is very important. So we've enabled to use that on their resume. Like Jessica said, one of our biggest partners is workforce development. We have a partnership with them every Friday where we take up to 5 of our team members to go out and do work on resumes, look for applications, and they actually have been great to us. During that process, we have gone a total of 7 people registered with CalJobs, and we have gotten 17 jobs employed. And this is all through this process going through COVID. On top of that, we do understand once COVID is over, we will do better. One of the biggest things though, and like I mentioned, through COVID is being able to work and recruit people in the shelter, but also in all over Modesto, getting them to the shelter. Right now, we are close to being at capacity with our program at 25 people. And the biggest thing is, like, what we do is getting our people to come out and being productive, but just like everybody else, they want a job. We know that there's a lot of unemployment in the city of Modesto, but everywhere else. And we are putting back people to work, but also we're giving them the keys and tools to be successful. And now up next, Greg Pensinger, Director of Downtown Streets team.
Hello, everybody. I'm Greg Pensinger. I'm the director with Downtown Streets team. I'm just hit my 10-year mark with Downtown Streets team. Modesto is actually the 5th team that I've managed, the 3rd that I've launched from the ground up. I did want to take a minute to talk about our Fair Chance Employer kind of program or campaign. We really want to show our partnership and recognition for our employment partners in the community. For instance, on the screen, you see one of our graduates, Chris, who was about 90 days ago, right now, David, was hired with as a cleaning ambassador with the Downtown Modesto Partnership. And the highlight of that is that we really worked with the hiring manager, Brian, from the recruitment process to the onboarding, all the way through. And we'll see a quote from Brian later about how efficient the process was. Whereas for 4 weeks, he had his job description out there, had 0 response. He met with David and we had 4 viable candidates within a week, 2 of which he was able to hire. And both of them are about to hit 90 days on the job. So really what we're trying to do is really show employers in this community that we want to be partners with them, with you, so that we can really, not only support your recruitment efforts, but also help our team members move out of homelessness. So if you want to go to the next slide. Some of the data of our permanent employment since launching our program in January. And I will say, due to COVID, we've been shut down for almost half of the time because of the shutdowns at the shelters. But even still, we've been able to partner with different employers throughout the community, to really create these employment opportunities for our team members based on their experience, based on their desire, and based on their ability. We have some people who are not able to do a full 40 hours. So we're looking for those opportunities that fit with each team member. And I do want to highlight the city of Modesto, who really did step up as our first Fair Chance employer in hiring 4 of our team members to their abatement team. And so they're working with Sergeant Mike Hammond to do outreach and engagement and also cleanup of some of the problem areas within Modesto. And they're doing a great job, and we really value that partnership of the city of Modesto to really step up as an employer. Go ahead, next slide. So the final step in the Camp2Home project is really the permanent housing. And so what the city has brought to us as in order to really build in every element that we need to move somebody from camp to permanent housing is a housing subsidy. So what we have is an employment-based housing subsidy, where for 1 year after employment, our team members are able to get, subsidized housing, and so that they could get their feet under them, increase their employment, get stable on their jobs, and then at the end of that year, graduate into self-sufficiency, where they're going to take over that the rent on their own based on their earned income. And so as I'm going through these slides, I'm going to talk about some of the stories of the pictures that you see. And I want you to note a couple of common themes, which are each one required supportive services and a partner in the housing community, whether that's a housing partner or a landlord who's willing to open their doors, accept a subsidy, and work with us to help move people into permanency. So on the left, you see Dawn entering her home for the first time. She was among 5 people who moved directly out of Moe's into this housing opportunity. Dawn is actually this month reunifying with her son, from whom she was separated for many, many years. And she's actually relocating to Kansas to live with him. And so she's, just now kind of fully recovering, getting connected with her family and finding that permanency. 2 other people that moved in with her, Deanna and Charles, they're both now employed with the Salvation Army as shelter aides. And then the mother of Charles also moved in from Moe's. Her health has recovered quite a bit since getting out of the elements. On your right or my right, maybe your left, I don't know, is Ray and Donna. I remember the day Ray and Donna stepped into our meeting at the house downtown. Both of them were very depressed, not really sure where to go. We found out very quickly that Ray was a veteran, but he was disconnected to any services from the VA. And so quickly we got him connected. We got him a HUD badge voucher. And within a few short months, we were able to get him connected to healthcare, got him glasses, got him employed, and finally into permanent housing where they still reside. So if we go to the next slide. So again, I mentioned the permanent housing subsidy. So we have a year of subsidized housing. We have deposit assistance and landlord incentives to kind of, make sure that we're showing that partnership with our landlord partners to make sure that we're not just going to forget about them, and that we do want to incentivize the risk that they're taking. We also do offer intensive support so that, if and when there are issues between the landlord and the tenant, we're the first ones there to step in to mitigate and intervene. And we've been really, really successful in being able to be a liaison between the tenant and the landlord, not only here in Modesto, but throughout our history as an organization. I do want to tell Jack's story very quickly because he is part of the inspiration for the Camp2Home program. So he actually was a member of our original team. He got hired with a partnership with Modesto and Ready to Work and was employed there for several months, but still unable to afford any housing based on his income. Well, he was able to join Camp2Home part-time, work with our case managers, get that subsidized housing, and he's now permanently housed. And it's really, it shows the need, because even though somebody is putting in all the effort, doing all the steps, they still may not be able to afford market rate rent in Modesto and Stanislaus County. So a program like Camp2Home is so necessary to give these individuals that next step and that platform to build on. And we're really confident that Jack will be able to take on the next step. He's actually in the process of applying for Caltrans and hopefully getting that state job. And if not, we're working with him on other opportunities as well. So next slide is about landlord engagement. And I'll start with Dinez's story. So Dinez is the other person that was hired through our partnership with the Downtown Modesto Partnership. His story is interesting. He was one of the first team members on Camp2Home. And he's like, how fast can we move? How quick can we do this? And David and I said, we'll go at your pace, bro. We're going to go as fast as you want to go. We're going to go with you. And sure enough, within a month, he had his resume. He was applying for jobs. We were able to get him into housing or into employment. But here's where the big gap comes in housing, because ever since that day, we've been almost 90 days now. We've been working with him every single day, trying to find that housing solution. And we've met landlords and shared housing opportunities, potential, and nothing has come through. And so we're really, really reaching out to the community in as many creative ways as possible to find that housing solution for individuals like Dinez, who just need that platform like Jack had in order to be able to move forward. So if you know somebody, we're asking you directly, please reach out to us, and we would love to work with you again. We're here for you as partners in this housing initiative, and we want to be there. I will say with landlord engagement, a big myth is that someone gets a job and they're able to move into find housing in Modesto and Stanislaus County, but that's just simply not the case. Some of the FMRs that are available from the federal government, fair market rate, are very undervalued in terms of what the reality is in Modesto. So for instance, a subsidy for a studio is something like $840, but the actual market rate is about $1,200 here in Modesto. So we're really trying to fight against not only some of the stereotypes that exist around homelessness, some of the market myths that exist, but also just the availability and the stock of housing. So as Joe mentioned, we really got to find those partnerships in the community and be creative about developing new housing solutions. So if we could go to the next slide. So I did want to talk about Charles and Deanna a little bit more, some of our success stories. So they were two of the people that I mentioned earlier who moved directly out of Moe's into that housing solution. And their story is very interesting. I remember the first day I met them at Moe's, they came to where we launched our program. And they said, we're just starting our sobriety journey. We need something to keep us stable. There's too much going on in our lives that are pulling us back, but we want to get connected to our families. We want to move forward. So you'll notice their beautiful smiles. One of the first things that they did is they got dentures, and they worked with our case managers to figure that out. They maintained their sobriety. They actually got married. Deanna has 8 children from whom she had been disconnected, and she just recently was able to reconnect them through the court system. They're both employed. Charles has been an aide with a low barrier shelter since day one, and Deanna just a couple of weeks ago got hired on the other side with the Salvation Army. We couldn't be prouder of the two of them. Also, they have maintained their sobriety. They were able to get an independent housing solution on their own through their earned income. And they really, I think, highlight the idea that if people are given the opportunity, given the resources, they can make things happen. And I think Charles and Deanna are really good examples of that. I wanted to include Efren's story to the right, because he's one of 14 individuals who moved in from the low barrier shelter to Kansas House, who moved in with the support of Downtown Streets team. That means we're providing case management, we're providing life skills, we're working with the property managers over there to intervene with any conflicts that may come up. And so far, all 14 of those individuals have been able to retain their housing. We've been able to work with Stanco over there to make sure that any issues are addressed immediately. And Stanco has given us really positive feedback, saying that they love working with us. Our case managers are very responsive to their needs. And we do that because we understand that it's a challenge for homeowners, property owners, housing solution services. And so we want to be partners with them to make sure that it's as easy as it can be. And so I will introduce a video. Actually, you may have seen an article in the Modesto Bee a couple weeks back, in which a community member named Kathy Munoz, who's been a longtime follower and supporter of Downtown Streets team, literally opened her doors to one of our team members. And so with that, we'll watch the video, and I think Jessica will be back up when we return. So thank you so much.
Joining the street team was where I started, and they helped me feel good about myself again. And it's more than just picking up garbage in your community. It's how to be self-sufficient. And for the first time that I can remember, if ever, I'm self-sufficient. And that makes me feel good, real good. And I have the street team, God, my family, Kathy here to thank for that. No, you don't like that.
I heard that there was a need for housing within residences, and so I began to inquire about that, and it took about 2 months to find the right fit and the right support system for that fit, and I think we found it. Eureka, we found
It's
it.
perfect. Sometimes I have to, when I wake up in the morning, it's like, I'm really still here. I live here. This is my home. And what a feeling. What an incredible feeling.
So as the video really talked about is through our Camp2Home program that the city designs, is we really wanted to give homeless individuals a path to self-sufficiency. That's moving them from unsheltered to job training, to permanent employment, and then eventually permanent housing. But the city of Modesto knows that we can't do this alone. And that's kind of where we wanted to continue to reach out to our community for the, one potential solution to address a path for our homeless. And so we're looking today for partners to help hire, house, and donate. So the first component for hire is through our program this year, we're looking to hire 25 members from our downtown streets team graduates into permanent employment. As you see, we've even through COVID, we were able to get 16 full-time people employed, but we still have that gap of about 9, and we're constantly looking for more people so we can get job trained and move into that permanent employment role. Our next partnerships that we're looking for is the house component. And Kathy Munoz is a perfect example of how we had to think outside the box and creatively in order to house one of our downtown streets team graduates. And so we're looking for people who are willing to, who are a landlord, who are willing to house, one of our downtown streets team graduates in their own home and in shared housing. But in order to invest in a stronger community by partnering with the city to provide secure housing options to people experiencing homelessness. And lastly, we're able to launch this program as part of the CARES funding that came down to the city to help address homelessness. And so in order to kind of keep Camp2Home really running in the future program years as well, we're looking for those who'd like to financially contribute to help support the downtown streets team into 2022. So with that, I'll hand it over to Joe to help thank our partners.
Thank you, everybody. And again, thank you for having us here today. And I just want to reiterate that this isn't our only solution to homelessness. We continue to be laser focused on trying our best to be good stewards in our community and help individuals get out of homelessness. And this isn't the only program we're working on. We're continuing to look at housing solutions, continuing to find ways to partner with the county so that we can make a difference in our community. And it's my commitment that this remains a priority for the city of Modesto as we try to find additional solutions and evaluate what's working and what's not working. But the other thing I want to reiterate is we can't do it alone. We need our partners. We need partnerships with the county, with our community, our landlord, and our businesses to help us solve this problem. No one entity can do it alone. And it's just very vital that we all work together to help solve this problem. And I'd also be remiss if I didn't thank our staff here today. Jessica has done a tremendous job in identifying very realistic solutions to this problem. Edgar Garcia from the city manager's office, Greg Pessinger with the downtown streets team. What a blessing it is for them to come into our community and help the individuals that are experiencing homelessness try and find a path to self-sufficiency. So thank you to everybody, all of our partners that you see up here. I'd like to thank Trish and the Chamber for having us here today. We appreciate our partnership as well in trying to solve this problem in our community. So again, thank you very much.
Thank you, Joe, and it's our pleasure to host you guys today. Appreciate you sharing your story. I hope that your opportunity to hear this all about this program, that you're as impressed as I am. Every time I listen to it, I realize how much more comprehensive it is. And for all of the businesses out there, I want to personally encourage you to please consider being a fair Thank you, a fair chance employer. With that, I thank you for joining us, and I really hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you.